Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Profitability Power Hour. I am your host, Wendy Y. Bailey. I'm a master business and sales coach known as your income acceleration mentor. And I'm here every Wednesday around the 5 p.m. Eastern hour to share strategies and tips and techniques and information and valuable content that you can use to increase your bottom line profits. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, and I'll tell you a little bit about the show for today. I'm Wendy Y. Bailey. I'm a 16-year veteran coach, and hopefully that says to you, like it says to me, that I've learned some of the secret sauce for staying in business. There are a lot of people who started with me, and I'm not trying to knock them, but they're not here. They've gone back to work. They've turned in, they've gone on to other opportunities, but I'm still here. And it's because I'm passionate about serving transformation experts like coaches, speakers, trainers, consultants, and what I call emerging thought leaders. I work with my clients specifically in areas of marketing, visibility and influence, and sales. We talk about sales scripting, sales strategy, and mindset is a big part of anything you do to create visibility and influence in the marketplace. So I really believe in sharing that with people as well. And I'm always excited when I have this kind of opportunity to share content with you that you can actually use to boost your bottom line profits. The name of my company is Business Beyond Limits. And my hashtag or my tagline, if you will. Hey, Carlin, welcome, welcome. My tagline is to help you create a bigger, better, bolder bottom line. So profitability is a key aspect of that. So for the past 10 weeks, I have been talking about profitability strategies. I put together a list of my top 10 strategies, and I've really been kind of going down that list for the past 8 weeks or so. I've talked about profitability in some other ways, but for the last 8 weeks in particular, I've been talking about profitability strategies. And today's profitability strategy is leverage speaking and live events. So I'm going to come at it from both angles, and there's some great content that I'm going to share with you. So if you haven't already, be sure to go get your pen and paper so that we can move forward. If you have questions, post them below. If you have comments on the replay, go ahead and like the video or let me know that you watched it by doing hashtag replay. And of course, if you have questions, post them below and I'll be sure to come back and watch them. If you're looking for the complete list of episodes, you can go to youtube.com and access the playlist at the Profitability Power Hour at youtube.com, Wendy Y. Bailey, and the playlist is there for the Profitability Power Hour. So let's jump into how to leverage speaking and live events as a profitability strategy. Well, one of the things that I always like to make sure people understand is every kind of speaking counts. Like every time you are presenting, every time you are sharing something, every time you are including live actionable content into what you say, and hopefully that's every time you open your mouth, all kind of speaking, it's some sort of speaking, and it totally counts. Case in point, I was invited to be a speaker at a women's organization a couple of years ago. And they never confirmed with me, but I didn't want to leave them without a speaker. So even though they hadn't confirmed, I showed up and they actually had another speaker that was present. It was fine. They were very nice to me. They were very kind. It was a dinner meeting. So they seated me and I got to have dinner. And what was really cool was at the very end of the meeting, they asked me to stand and share comments. Do you think I stood and said, thanks for having me, appreciate you letting me sit down and have dinner? Not at all. It was an opportunity for me to speak. And what I shared was a tidbit of content. I told them who I was, where to find me, and then I took my seat and everyone applauded. And the person who invited me to speak actually said, we're definitely going to have you back as a speaker. So I'm sharing that with you because all kinds of speaking counts, all kinds of speaking. That's just one example, but let me give you a few more that I think will help you really understand what I'm talking about. There are lots of different virtual speaking opportunities that are available for you. And so the virtual speaking opportunities look like podcast interviews or telesummits, where you're part of a larger group and you're focused on a specific topic, or webinars where you are a guest. If you're doing a Facebook Live, if you're doing a Periscope, if you're doing something where you are seeing your partner, you are interviewing, you're being interviewed, you are speaking. So you've got to leverage those opportunities as speaking opportunities. They're not just you showing up and saying, hey, I'm Wendy Y, let me just say hello. It's an opportunity for you at that time, no matter what kind of speaking it is, to showcase your expertise. Some of my best clients, I will say this, come from podcast interviews where they've heard me on the radio, they've heard me on a podcast, they've heard me on a telesummit, they've invested in buying the downloads for the telesummit or for the video virtual summit. And because they made that investment, they wanted to hear me over and over again. And because of that, I was one of many, but because I made an impact on them, it was something that they wanted more of. Okay, so every kind of speaking counts. You've also got to look at virtual summits. I call them virtual summits. I'm talking video summits where you're actually on camera like I am now, master classes where you may be on audio or video, and radio interviews. So somebody can hear you and you can showcase your expertise through what you share. It's still a speaking opportunity. And I want to make sure you guys really understand the speaking opportunities vary. Of course, most of the time we think of speaking opportunities as, keynote presentations and, keynote presentations and seminars and workshops. Yes, they are speaking, whether you're presenting a webinar, a live workshop, a live seminar, a teleseminar, a keynote presentation. That's what we typically think of when we think of speaking. But I want to be sure that you guys know that that's just part of speaking. Anytime you're asked to make remarks on podcast interviews, radio interviews, TV interviews, media presentations, sound bites, no matter what the situation, it is a speaking opportunity. So my first point, as I said before, is all speaking counts. All speaking counts. The second thing I want you to know is it's very important when you're speaking that you pay attention to your audience, your listeners, your audience. You've got to make sure that you're speaking to your ideal clients only. Let me say it a different way. You've got to be sure that you're speaking to your most ideal clients only. Now, here's the reason for that. Every time you speak to an audience and it's not your most ideal client, you're opening yourself up for folks who don't really belong in your sphere of your ability to support them. Whenever you speak to people that are not your ideal clients, you're putting your wares before people who can't appreciate them. Excuse me. You're putting your wares before people who really can't appreciate them. I hear from people all the time who are event planners, who are social media folks, and because they're putting it out there, let's stick with the event planners for a second. If you're putting your event planning before people who don't recognize the value of investing in event planning, they don't recognize that there is a level of expertise to it. And so when event planners have come to me in the past and they've said, well, what do you say to someone who says, my aunt can bake the cake, my grandmother can do the hors d'oeuvres, my cousin can make the punch, whatever it is? You're talking to people who don't recognize the value of the investment in your services. They are not your ideal clients. It works the same for every other kind of transformation expert. So if you're a coach, if you're a speaker, if you're a consultant, and you are speaking to people who are not your most ideal clients, it's what the Bible refers to in scripture as casting your pearls before swine. You need to put your wares, your expertise in front of people who truly appreciate it. My quick story is this. When I first started working in the fearless living realm, I got trained. And one of the things that they did as part of their training is they gave you this blanket press release, and all you had to do was fill in the details with your information and other details. Well, I sent my press release out, and it got picked up here in Atlanta by the largest newspaper here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Journal and Constitution. And it was featured, an article about me and fearless living was featured in the third largest county in the country, DeKalb County, and it was the DeKalb Neighbor paper. I don't know if they still do them now, but at that time they did the DeKalb Neighbor. And I was so excited because I thought, wow, I'm going to be featured in this newspaper. It goes out to 40,000 homes in DeKalb County every week. And there I was, featured, an article about me and this new work I was doing around fear. Well, that's what I thought until I started getting calls from people who had addictions, people who had been traumatized, who knew that there were fears and phobias that they were dealing with. And the coaching that I could provide was not what they needed. They needed a level of professional help that was beyond coaching. It was more counseling and someone who had the ability to administer medication to them and things like that. And I wasn't that person. So when I talk about speaking to your most ideal clients, I'm talking about making sure that when you get press, when you're speaking, when you're making remarks, when you're doing workshops, when you're doing seminars, when you're coaching people, you're coaching your most ideal clients, because then you can truly make a difference when you're speaking to your most ideal clients specifically. The thing that I want you to really understand in my story is if you speak anywhere, if you speak to anyone, you are really opening yourself up to diluting your reach. If you're speaking to anyone and anywhere, you're diluting your ability to really make an impact in the lives of your most ideal clients. That's why I always talk about ideal client clarity. If you're here, and I know Carlin is here, Carlin, I'm always talking about ideal client clarity and why that's so important. You got to have ideal client clarity. You've got to know who your most ideal client is in order to truly make an impact in the lives of your most ideal clients. You've got to know who they are. And here's what I mean by you've got to know who they are. You've got to know their demographics. You've got to know their psychographics. You've got to know how they treat you. You've got to know what drives them and what guides them. You've also got to know their buying behavior and what patterns that you can expect from them. You've got to know how to talk to them and reach them in what you say in your messaging to them in the marketplace. That's why you've got to be crystal clear about your most ideal clients. Because if you speak anywhere to anyone, then you're diluting your reach and your ability to successfully serve your most ideal clients. And, the whole thing about serving your most ideal clients, when you are serving and speaking and in front of your most ideal clients, whether you're being interviewed for an article, whether you are being interviewed on a TV show or a podcast interview or any of those speaking opportunities, you're expanding your impact exponentially because you don't know who's going to hear that interview. You don't know who's going to see that interview. You don't know who's watching that is your ideal client. So when you focus on your ideal client and you know that's who your audience is, you know that's who your listeners are, then you're expanding your reach exponentially. And you always want to be in the business of expanding your reach exponentially. So the first thing I said was all kind of speaking counts. All kind of speaking counts. The second thing I said is speak to your ideal client only. Speak to your ideal client only. The third thing I want to tell you is to use what I call seeding techniques. Now, I didn't originate the term seeding. I've heard a number of different people use the term seeding. I've heard it from Lisa Nichols. I've heard it from Del Toro McNeil. I've heard it from Les Brown. I've heard the term seeding. And seeding just means you're planting the seeds of your expertise and opportunities to serve your most ideal clients. You're letting your clients, your most ideal clients, see themselves in what you're sharing. And there are a couple of ways that I'm going to just highlight for you that you can do this in your seeding. You can do it. I copied too much stuff, sorry. You can do it in your storytelling. When you are telling stories, you want your most ideal clients who are listening and watching to hear themselves in your story. You want your most ideal clients to know that you have a level of expertise in working with them through your stories. The more you share your stories, that's why it's great to be a great storyteller. The more your most ideal clients will see themselves in your stories. The other thing that you can use is what I call, and this is my term, is association. When you associate your clients to whatever the detail is, they get it. Like every time throughout today, I've been talking with you, I've been saying, if you're coaching someone, this is what you can expect. If you're speaking, then this is what you're going to know. Associate your ideal clients with the story that you're telling, okay? The other thing that you can do that is also part of seeding is what I call focusing on passion. Focusing on passion. And what I mean by focusing on passion is you're giving people an insight into what's possible, into their dreams, into their desires, where they want to be. It's that pie in the sky place. So as you're going through your stories, as you're citing examples, give your ideal clients who are listeners, who are watching you, an opportunity to see themselves in the passion. You get to paint the stroke, if you will, of the vision of them living out their passions, of them really being in the story. It's storytelling, it's association, and it's focused on passion. You can also focus on the pain points. I know you hear that a lot, and there are people in my community, in fact, that don't believe in pain points, and I'm okay with that. I think you've got to have a balance. I don't think you do all pain and rub people's noses in how awful whatever it is their experience is to get them to really know, like, trust, and experience you. You've also got to give them a balance of passion. You've got to help them see what's possible. You've got to help them see the end result. That's what I do with my clients. I help them see the possibilities as well as where they are. And then together we walk through a roadmap that takes them from where they are to where they want to be in terms of passion. Takes them from where they are out of that pain into that place of a realization of how good things can be, of how great things can be in their business. The 3 points that I've made so far, like I said, I've talked about all kinds of speaking counts, all kinds of speaking counts. The second was speak to your ideal clients only. Speak to your ideal clients only. You know, all of this has been profitability strategy number 7. This is episode 10, but on my list of profitability strategies, it's been profitability strategy number 7. I've got 2 more strategies that are on my list, but I'm actually going to keep going with profitability strategies after that. Remember, if you're watching the replay, to hashtag replay in the comments, to share the video, and to post any questions you have as well. I want to support you because I believe in making sure you have a place to go to get more information. I've got a free download for you at incomeaccelerationday.com, incomeaccelerationday.com. It's a virtual group coaching intensive for an intimate group of transformation experts. And there are a couple of things that we do that are signature for me as it relates to serving my client to attend this particular virtual group intensive. And what I do are the personalized profitability plan. We look at your active and passive streams of revenue. We identify what those are in terms of the value they bring to the marketplace. And we talk about how you launch those and what's involved in your launch strategy. The other thing that we do is we craft your highly influential marketing message. It's a message that really speaks to the senses. It's based on neurolinguistic programming. And I love how that really plays out into helping you to really get seen, known, and heard and paid in the marketplace. The download in Income Acceleration Day is, guess what? Ideal Client Clarity Workbook. When you download the workbook, you'll be able to map out your demographics and psychographics, and you'll be able to identify places and spaces where you can actually find and serve your most ideal client specifically. There's a lot of information there. It's about a 10-page workbook. You'll work through it very easily, and it's a prelude to Income Acceleration Day. So I want to invite you to go to incomeaccelerationday.com. That's incomeaccelerationday.com, so that you can get your copy of the Ideal Client Clarity Workbook today. I'm Wendy Y. Bailey. This has been the Profitability Power Hour. We're here every Wednesday around the 5 p.m. Eastern hour. I'm broadcasting and simulcasting to 4 groups. So if you're watching me in one of the groups, be sure that you are sharing the video. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay in the comments. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And I'll come back around and answer those questions. If you're looking for the playlist, you can find me on youtube.com, and it's Wendy Y. Bailey, 2 Y's in the middle, Wendy Y. Bailey. So I don't see any questions. I thank you guys so much for being here for this episode, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Profitability Power Hour. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.